Robertson, of course, Film Festival Live and filmfestivallive.com. Check it out and see all the great articles and information on there. Constantly talking to film festivals, directors, sometimes actors. Last show, day before yesterday, not Friday, was an awesome person, Joyce, who has a great system on memorization for actors, because it's one of those things that honestly should be in all of the acting universities and courses and things you do, but we negate that. So people get to set and they go, rah, rah, rah. What do you mean you don't have your lines down? So anyway, the point is that Joyce's thing, you can check on filmfestivallive.com and you will see that information on there on how to do that course, because it's awesome. I make no money off it, so I'm just trying to help people out and do what they do. Welcome to Monday. I just got off a live stream with Kevin E. West, who's a very good friend of mine here in LA, Actors Network. He was doing that for like 20, 30 years or something back in the 90s, back when I think we were still doing black and white headshots. Dope. Anyway, here we are, 2022. Hard to believe. But now the world of filmmaking and acting and all this other stuff has really come into the performer, the creator, the people that make this stuff happen film in their own. Meaning that, 13 Pro Max. I did. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you a segment. Normally, I would talk a little bit more about the acting stuff, but my guest, who is waiting in the wings right now, I know he's got a lot of stuff going on. So I'm going to skip to a piece that was done. I might not do the whole thing, because that's why I'm having Richard on. He is one of the main people at the Yellowstone Film Ranch in Montana, which I shot recently, a film called The Redeemer. And that's going to be out soon, coming to a theater near you. But here is a piece I did with a good friend of mine, who actually became a good friend of mine because of the film, Tim B. Murphy. So hang tight. Here's what it looks like. Don't go away. Lots of great America. And who knows where we'll go next? Yeah. Tim and Will in 3D.
So Richie, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
It's like Australia, huh?
just like back home. All right, here we are. Of course, behind the scenes of America.com. We're out here in Livingston, Montana. Is it technically Livingston?
We're in Immigrant.
So Richie, tell us about the town, you know?
So it's set in 1880.
Yeah.
We did a lot of historical work with that. Lindsay Moran was the original production designer of the town, and she'd worked on Hunger Games and some big films, so she knew about big sets.
Yeah.
And so if you walk around the town, the livery is one of my favorite buildings, just because the light that comes through.
Yeah.
And we have 28 buildings, but every 3 buildings is a real build. So
sure.
You've got a mercantile, and then you've got a jail,
Yeah.
and then across the road a saloon with a brothel. They're all real buildings. Across the road, the town hall, that could be a courthouse.
Yeah.
Another inn and mercantile, and then obviously the church, which is
great.
It's pretty special.
It's very special. All right. So I could probably show the whole piece. And by the way, at the end of the show, I will show the whole piece. But I wanted you to get an idea of what we're talking about today. Just because, look, Film Festival Live, we have 8,000 to 10,000 of film festivals around the world. And I want people to know about all aspects of it. So with that being said, without further ado, Richard Gray, his place is awesome. So is he. We had some time we spent with him. And Richard, welcome to the show.
Hey, Will. How you doing, brother?
Good. I'm fantastic. I just want to know, is it still as snowy and cold as when I was there like a month or so ago?
It's been a pretty mild winter. Actually, it was colder when you were here. There's no snow. There's a little bit of snow in my backyard, but there's snow in the mountains, but not so much in the street.
Well, I wish that was the case. Although they say that the the way to be successful with the Western is if you have snow. It just makes the shots and everything look so cool, which we got a lot of great stuff because you have what I will call kind of the one-stop shop in Montana in regards to the location. But before we get into Yellowstone Film Ranch, I want to talk about you because you are a director and you've been doing this for 100 years, I think. And you don't look like it, but let's go back to your thing. How does a man from Australia all of a sudden say, you know what, honey, we're pulling up the roots, moving to California, like the Clampets, or move to Montana and start a Wild West town and other things that you do and constantly are working to shoot, produce, and direct films? How does this happen?
Yeah, man. So I made my first film in Australia, I think about 12 years ago, and we kind of used that as a launch pad to get to the US because I knew I wanted to make films for a living, and it's hard to do that full time in Australia. There's just not a lot of movies made, and it takes a lot longer to get your film up.
But
Phenomenal.
remember that statement because I want to ask you why, but not now. Keep going.
Yeah, so it just takes a longer time, and Australia has a fantastic film industry. I just knew that there'd be more opportunities here, so we moved with my wife Michelle, who's a writer, to LA. We were there for 10 years, but yeah, I made a film called Robert the Bruce in Montana about 2-3 years ago, and that's what brought me here. And we just fell in love with Montana, and then my executive producer, my business partner, Carter Bain, we'd always wanted to make a Western. And we were going to either shoot it in Calgary, where the winter Westerns usually get shot, or in Santa Fe, where the more desert Westerns are getting shot, over the last decade anyway. So after exploring those, and this film was so special to us, we decided to build our own town. Right. Because it coincided with the tax credit in Montana coming through. Sure. And so Montana, for the first time, has a really competitive 30 to 35% tax credit. So all those things were like, oh, right, well, there's all these Montana stories, Westerns, that never get made in Montana. Sure. Even if it's something like The Revenant or Legends of the Fall, they're shot in Canada. So it was all of those things together that decided that we wouldn't just build a town for one film, we'd build a backlot for all of the Westerns. Sure. And that was the idea.
You talked about how it isn't easy to, I know you said there's a big thriving industry in Australia for film, but why is it? Is it difficult? Is it tax credits? Is it that you have to get too many permits? I mean, we know the horror story about LA and Hollywood now. Lots of people moving out of there because their incentives aren't there as much. You get them more outside in Oklahoma and Montana, and it's easier. You don't have to, every time you turn around, you don't have the production police at you. What's the story with Australia? Because it's beautiful.
Yeah, so we've got a hell of a lot of US production there right now. Many US shows, many US films getting made in Australia. Mm-hmm. But if you have an Australian story, if it's an Australian film, it's a lot harder to get funded. And so you need government support to get it funded. And in order to get that government support, you've got to do a lot of work. Huh. And rightfully so if you're asking the government to fund half your film. Sure. We don't have the business model in Australia where investors are looking to put equity investment into your independent film. Right. So without that, and with the need of a government process that can take, I think my first film took 7 years, then it just takes a lot longer.
No, I get it.
There's not a hell of a lot of production. Yeah. It's just if it's your independent film, it takes a long time.
Well, it sounds like, unfortunately, and I understand this, but it doesn't sound like Australia's showing the love to their locals as much as there are people coming from the outside. So, I mean, that's not necessarily bad because it's allowed you to move outside of Australia and really flourish. So, and quite honestly, I mean, where would you rather have a Western film, Montana or Australia? You know, what are you going to do? So, you do more than just Westerns, though. I know that you personally, as a director, how long have you been a director?
So,
roughly.
I guess I came out of film school, and I went when I was 22 or 23, I was in project Greenlight, and I came second in that.
Wow.
And so that kind of kickstarted. I got a lucky kind of start because that kickstarted me into my first feature. But then from 23, it took till I was 30 to make my first feature. It was actually a romantic drama set in the outback. And so that was the process, probably, where I was thinking about, geez, I want to go somewhere where I don't have to be 7 years between movies. But it was also good because I was learning. I did a lot of television in that time.
Oh, good.
Did cooking shows, did lifestyle, did
Nice.
everything.
Multiple camera, or was it single? Were you on what sort of production was it? Was it for a network or?
Yeah, we did everything from a Winter Olympics special in Vancouver for Fox to a reality show, kind of like The Amazing Race. So it was kind of cool to do all different types of stuff.
Let me ask you, as a director, the industry has really changed a lot. Have you run the gamut of doing film festivals? Do you still throw yourself out there, or are you now in the momentum of you invest, you put it together, and you try to get the streaming or the theaters or whatever? Where are you?
I think every project's different. So Robert the Bruce, which we shot in Scotland as well, that lined up perfectly to have our world premiere at Edinburgh, which is a fantastic film festival.
Yeah.
And then the UK distributor used that to release us on the back of that.
Yeah.
So that certainly was perfect timing. A lot of times it depends on the timing. I remember when we played Palm Springs and then Seattle, and it was just like a nice timing for the lead up. But then on other films, we've been at that time of year where there's not a lot going on, and so rather than wait 6 months for a festival, it made more sense to miss it.
Right, but you are you are utilizing a film festival when you need, and
all the time,
rightfully so, because it is a great way for people that aren't like the major networks or the major production places or studios to be able to utilize it and get that little bump. Edinburgh, I interviewed them on the show. What a great festival! What a great place! And yeah, I can see, the cool thing is that being able to take a film that you did that has a genre, a time period that is in a certain place, and you can, if you're shooting there in Scotland, to be able to push it out there, because obviously it's going to get some good momentum. Let me ask you, in regards to, I'm going through everything that I ask a person who has lots of different tools in their shed, and you do. What do you think about technology now and the industry? Because you started when we were still you started where we're talking about beta SPs and film and now here we are with SD cards and C cards or whatever. Is it good or bad? How has it changed for you in the industry, and has it made it easier?
Yeah, really cool. So when I was at film school, our first year film was Beta SB, but then we were lucky enough to be in the final years that we're shooting on film. So second year films was Super 16, third year films was Super 35.
Wow.
And so I was lucky to get that because straight after that was when the DSL boom happened with the 5D. And so it was so cool to have already had the film experience and to learn to light for film, to learn how important rehearsal is and making decisions because film's so expensive. But then the Red, I think I was one of the first films to shoot on the Red in Australia, the Red 1. And then the second half of the film, a film called Summer Coda, is set in LA. And a good friend of mine was DP for the US, and he had one of the prototype cameras from Tony Scott's Pelham 123, and it was a Red 1, but it was such an early Red 1, it was actually just called Brooklyn. It was just had the word Brooklyn on the side of it. He wished he kept it because it probably would be worth a
lot
pretty penny now. So when we moved to the Red 1, we were still lighting for it and treating it like it was film, which was a really good thing because the second film I made was on the Red Epic, and because of the resolution and all the bells and whistles, we kind of didn't focus as much on the negative.
Yeah.
And a lot of the pictures I got on the Red One with much less resolution, I preferred to when we moved to the
Yeah.
Epic. So it was a really good learning curve.
Yeah, I'll tell you, when you look at, good point, but when you look at, sometimes you look at these extra HD and you're looking and you're like, that's just too close and too, it's overdone. And a lot of times you'll see, like, a lot of these streaming things that they have the best possible cameras and so on, but you're like, the way they shot it and lit it, I'm just looking at people's pores. And I agree with you. There's a bit of a soft focus, and there's a different look to the old school stuff. That's why a lot of times, if you're a filmmaker or someone that is into any of this type of stuff, you talk about old glass and some of the old cinema lenses that they have. So, what do you have now?
Yeah, so we shot, I think, on the DXL2, the red that they made in collaboration with Panavision.
Yes.
And it's true, the higher the resolution gets, because I think that's 8K,
Yeah.
the older the lenses the DP wants to use. So we were using some beautiful old master primes, I think. And so you take this cutting edge sensor and you just try to soften. And then that's beautiful.
Yeah. You have, now going to the film ranch, I want to say that, first of all, the scenery, the different settings that you have available. I'll let you all watch the thing at the end of the show, but you have so many different hard, soft, great, distant, great places to go, and of course downtown, and the different locals and the things you can do there as well. But talk to me a little bit about, if a production calls up and says, "Look, Richard, we're shooting what if they said it's not a Western, but we still want to use the town?" You're open to pretty much anything because you have multiple locations, correct?
Yeah, so as you know, like, it's a really pretty place called Paradise Valley.
Yep.
It's only about half an hour from Yellowstone.
Right.
But it's only an hour from Bozeman, which is where you fly in, and Bozeman's kind of a bursting city right now. So the cool thing about it is we have a lot of land, and so we have a circus comedy coming in next. There's nothing to do with a Western, but they just needed the landscape and the land.
Sure.
And the cool thing about where we are is, you can look one way and it's all just anywhere America, kind of plains, floodplains, prairie. If you look the other way, you're Pacific Northwest forest and snow-capped mountains. So there's a lot of variety. And then, of course, it's Montana. You've got some of the most beautiful rivers and lakes in the world. So it's kind of and there's no one here. Like, there's 1 million people in the entire state, and it's a huge state. So you can find your location.
Yeah. One thing I have to bring up that was mind-blowing to me, and I was wondering about the church. You look at your the pictures of the site, and you will see this awesome, iconic-looking church. And I just want to say, because I remember in the interview you saying that, well, you can take it apart because it's not just a wooden old church, which, by the way, I've been in it, and it's awesome and cold when it's cold. But the point is that you specifically laid it out to where you can take the top off, you can burn it down. Can you give us a little background on that space?
Yeah, so the church, and if you check Yellowstone Film Ranch out on Instagram, you'll see the church actually being built.
Oh,
but
cool.
it's a steel structure, and we did that because we were reading a lot of scripts, and one script in particular that needed to burn the church down.
Right.
And we didn't want to build $1 million church to burn it down, and we know that it's going to get a lot of action in Westerns at the church. So we built it in pieces, so you can take. It's a 6-story. The steeple is 6 stories, so you can take off the bell tower, and you can actually move the whole church, so that then you could come in and build a frame and effigy of a church that you could burn down.
Right.
And that was the idea behind that. But it was also so that the church has such an iconic look to it. If it's not so much a big part of your script, it might want to play a schoolhouse. And so being able to take off the bell tower and make adjustments to the building, you've got more freedom. And unlike other Western towns that have grown beautifully over the years, because they started with Lonesome Dove and then this other Western came through and they kept organically growing.
Right.
Because we were starting from scratch, we had the opportunity to make buildings bigger and more film friendly right from the start. Because at another place, production might want to build the set or building as cheaply as possible because it's just going to get torn down, right?
Yeah.
It's for one time only. But the saloon, brothels, town hall, the jail, our livery, and the church, we really wanted to make them big and special because we want them to be around for a long time.
Right. Is that correct up there, Yellowstone Film Ranch? Is that your Instagram?
Yellowstone Film Ranch.
Okay,
Yep.
I just want to make sure I'm over here typing. I am making sure that people know.
It was a 2.5 year build.
Right. Did you wind up having to? Do you own the land, and then they went, let's build this, or what's this? Does the state have anything to say or do about it at all?
No, so we have there's three of us. So Carter Bain, who's produced a bunch of my movies, and also Colin Davis, who owns the nearby resort, which is a great place for crew. Is another reason, as you knew, why we built it there. There's a lot of lodging around the corner, which is rare for a backlot in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So you have a place called Chico Hot Springs right there, and so your catering and lodging are sorted. And then Carter, myself, and Colin got together, and we didn't want to see the land be developed because there's a lot of new development in the area that locals aren't so pumped about.
Yeah.
So by making it a town, kind of protecting the land as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and by the way, a few of those places I can tell you are a lot of fun after you're shooting to hang out in.
Yeah, there's a bunch of bars in the town that we're in. The crew, it's a great time for the cast and crew.
It really is, and the thing is that we all, when you're in a film and you're spending, I was there for 15 days, something like that. But when you're in a place like that, I mean, if you're in a metropolis like when I was in Brazil or in India, I was in main places. But when you're in a place like this and you're shooting a Western, there's nothing better than being able to go and experience the locals. Really got to be pretty good friends with a lot of your wranglers, talking roping and so on, because I do it. But just a really great space, and everybody's very accommodating to be able to make films out there, and that's awesome. Because my last question for you is that are you getting any spillage over onto or getting people interested in your space in regards to some of the 1883 or some of the Yellowstone, or whatever, all this stuff, the larger projects? Are they going, hey, who's this guy? Are you getting any of that?
Yeah, so because Yellowstone was originally shot in Utah, and then because of the benefit of the tax credit, it was able to actually move to Missoula and be in the state where it's set.
Yeah.
1883, as you know, is kind of like the Lonesome Dove story.
Texas.
So season 1 is the migration to Montana,
Yeah.
but we're hoping season 2 they'll want to work with us because they're going to need more than one Western town.
Yeah.
It's super exciting. So our film that we built the town for is called Murder at Yellowstone City.
Yeah.
And Murder at Yellowstone City, the town where we built, it was actually used to be called Yellowstone City in the 1850s. So it's exciting. There's a lot of synergies with Yellowstone. I think Yellowstone has reignited people's passion for watching this type of content.
Yeah.
Certainly 1883 helps it get out to a huge audience. And Westerns like the Western that you were starring in, The Redeemer, they seem to have had or are having a resurgence.
Yeah.
Because we've booked 6 Westerns back to back. And that's just beautiful. And whether they're films that would have usually gone to Canada or gone to Santa Fe, it's really cool.
Yeah, I've had this subject conversation, especially because of Rust. And, I came on and when that happened, I was on probably about 7 or 8 international interviews because of my expertise with single action and guns. And I thought for sure that when that happened, I thought we were gone. And all of my cowboy friends I'm like on the phone with them, the ones that shoot, and they're like, oh, we're done. Will, what are we going to do? And then out of nowhere, Miles comes up and goes, no, we're doing one. Oh, well, are we going to use CGI? No. So what has happened actually, and you know this, but I know it because I've already been looking at 5 other Western scripts, and they're like, "Oh no." And it's weird because I thought it would shut down a lot, and in reality, obviously because of 1883 as well, and hopefully Redeemer is that we're now kicking in a high gear, and people are like, no, we want this content. So that's exciting because you have an exciting place that's awesome, and I can just see just a lot of places just coming to you. So I got that crossed.
Yeah, man, and what a tragedy, and what it
Yeah,
has done in the films that we've seen since is, any normal film has a ridiculously safe
sure.
set in the
So
way we
safety
deal with
protocol, sure.
blanks, and on any normal film set, something like that is impossible to happen, and it's certainly sad. Certainly, the
Yeah,
film that's shooting here
of
right
course.
now is only using rubber guns,
Yeah,
and I guess we'll see thankfully, just a more hardcore look at safety anytime anything that's potentially harmful could be used, just like the tragic accident with Sarah
yeah,
Jones, a decade ago.
yeah.
It needs to Safety constantly needs to be in the spotlight, particularly what we're doing out at the ranch every day.
Yeah, and you know what? With all due respect, as a stunt guy, as a weapons dude, actor, and someone conscious of all that stuff, look, and I'm right in the middle everywhere. Point is that shit happens, okay, and it is a very tragic thing. But what I can tell you, because I have done enough westerns and in this industry, is that you know what, stunts are dangerous. Setting a man on fire is dangerous. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's dangerous, but one thing I will tell you is that when I did get on the phone with Miles and we started talking about all this stuff and I'm training Tim on all the gun spinning and stuff like that, is he said, you said, we're going to do this the way it's supposed to be done. There is no, there's no shortcuts. And so I just want to say, with all due respect to you and your location, every single step along the way, the armorers and everybody was like, double check, check it, double check, check it. Even me, they went, Will, here's yours. We know. We'll let you do this. Point is that it just has to be from the top down. And you made that clear when I went into this production. They went, none of this, none of that. So that's good because you have a great place. And I can't imagine right now the place in New Mexico getting much work anymore because it is a site of mishandling. So, with that being said, again, I'm giving you all the respect that you should be getting because your place is great, what you provide is great, all the different things. And lastly, you can provide stuff outside of cowboy. You've done medieval. You have a lot of different things. So, what's the website for people to go to so they can check it out, make a phone call to you,
Yeah,
and get their next production there?
yeah. So it's YellowstoneFilmRanch.com and Yellowstone Film Ranch at Instagram. They're your two best places. And yeah, because of course we've got the woods, we've got cabins in the woods. We can do horror, anything period, obviously anything genre, anything that you don't need a big city, basically.
Right? Horror films all day long. Cabins and horror
Survival,
films.
survival films.
Yeah.
We
And
do a lot of
I,
those.
I gotta believe because I could say you're international, but I gotta believe that it's going to be a little less expensive because I just checked my gas down the street at 5.25. Nope. And I know that in when I was there it was like 3.25 or something. I gotta believe that it's a lot easier on your mind and your pocketbook to pull up stakes and film at the Yellowstone Film Ranch.
Yeah, man. And with the tax credit, and also there's no sales tax in Montana.
Oh,
I think there's only 3 states that don't have sales tax. So there's another 10% on top of the tax credit. And the cost of living here is much cheaper.
yeah.
So it's certainly good for independent filmmakers. It's just a great place to make a movie. And now that we've been doing it really strongly for 2 years now, there's a lot of local crew now. A lot of Montanans that were around making the Robert Redford days films, Horse Whisperer time when we used to make more movies here. They've come back. They've been in Georgia for 20 years, and now they can come back because they can work in their home state.
Yeah, and I'll end on the note that you are very well respected, from the makeup and hair to props to all of the other people that speak highly of you. And look, you got to do that in this business because it's a small community, although it may seem international. You got to screw up once and they'll be like, don't go to that place. I can tell you many locations, by the way, that are, when you get there, you're like, I don't know if it's going to be safe here, i.e. New Mexico. Anyway, Richard Gray, really appreciate you coming on the show. Of course, if you want to contact him, Yellowstone Film Ranch on Instagram, check it out. I'm actually going to go there. I want to see that the whole breakdown of the church thing. It's fascinating. You literally made it out of metal. You can tear it all down. We can put up something else. You can burn it, put it back into place. Love that idea. Lego, Wild West Lego Town. And all the other amenities. And obviously, as a director, if anybody's like looking, wait a minute, the guy knows the place, he knows the area, and I need a director. Is that something that you're available to do?
Oh man, you can imagine how many Western scripts we get sent now.
It's great. I love it. Imagine. I wish they came to me, but they're coming to you. But it's all in the hood.
They can come to you indirectly.
Yes, there it is. Yeah, if you know Richard. So anyway, thank you, my friend. I really do appreciate it. The experience there. Every time I interview people, I always try to understand a little bit about them. But in your case, I understand a lot more about what you do and who you are. And it was a pleasure and honor to be there. But more importantly, folks, again, with all the stuff that we have going on that Able to do, you want to kind of plug and play. And with that being said, Yellowstone Film Ranch is definitely a great place to plug and then play. Thanks for coming on. If you have anything
Thanks so much,
future, brother, you just let me know and we'll promote it, okay?
Thanks, brother. Talk soon.
Hang on 1 second. I want to say goodbye to you officially, but I'm going to say goodbye to the show. Hang on 1 second. All right, everybody, that's the show for today. Really appreciate you hanging out in my studio. And if you have anything film festival related, acting related, anything you want in regards to doing what we do and love to do, please, by all means, go to filmfestivallive.com or the Instagram Film Festival Live or my Instagram, Will Roberts Official, and just send me a note, a message, and maybe you can come on the show. Be safe, be well, but most importantly, be successful. Don't take no for an answer. Well, don't be pushy. Well, never mind. Good luck. Have fun. Watch the end of this thing. Here it goes. I'm going to go into it as soon as I can find it. That's what happens when you take off your glasses. I can't see jack shit. Hold on 1 second. Yellowstone Film Ranch. Here's the website, by the way. I wanted to show you that in case you see it and you go, oh, yeah, that's what that looks like. And here we go. Lots of great America, and who knows where we'll go next? Yeah. Tim and Will in 3D.
So Richie, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
It's like Australia, huh?
just like back home.
All right, here we are. Of course, behind the scenes of America.com. We're out here in Livingston, Montana. Is it technically Livingston?
We're in Immigrant.
So Richie, tell us about the town,
So it's set in 1880.
Yeah.
We did a lot of historical work with that. Lindsay Moran was the original production designer of the town, and she'd worked on Hunger Games and some big films, so she knew about big sets.
Yeah.
And so if you walk around the town, the livery is one of my favorite buildings, just because the light that comes through.
Yeah.
And we have 28 buildings, but every 3 buildings is a real build. So
sure.
You've got a mercantile, and then you've got a jail, and then across the road a saloon with a brothel. They're all real buildings. Across the road, the town hall, that could be a courthouse.
Yeah.
Another inn and mercantile, and then obviously the church, which is
great.
Is pretty special.
It's very special, and it has that. You see that church, and you go, I think I saw that in this film because of the way it was built. It has that authentic look that you've seen in many films.
Yeah, and it's an interesting structure. It's actually built with steel, and you can take it apart. Because you read scripts where they want to burn the church down.
So you need the top.
And so you can take the bell tower off to make it look less, huge.
God.
But you can also move the whole building.
Wow.
So you could build an effigy and burn that down.
Jeez,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's
great.
kind of like a Lego Wild West town.
Yeah.
And what's great, I suppose, about it, and I shot in Western towns up in Calgary, and it's a bit similar to that. And but you can do your interiors and exteriors here, which is amazing.
And we built it bigger than it would have been, just knowing the camera crews.
Yeah.
And unlike the other towns that were built for and have just slowly expanded.
Yeah, yeah.
We
they're just
kind of
small.
built it for the future.
Yeah, that's
I
great.
see.
What are some of the films that you've done out here?
Okay, so I made a little a ghost coming of age story called Broken Ghost, very small budget, and then just a couple of years back we made Robert the Bruce, obviously the Scottish king, and that was really interesting to shoot it here. But we had Shores Wallace in Scotland show us locations in Scotland that looked really similar. To this.
Yeah.
And so we filmed, about 70% of that film here, and then 30% of it in Scotland.
Let's talk about, it closes up by asking about the other amenities in town, because one thing is that, and I've been to New Mexico, I've been to Texas and all these different towns like this. What's unique about this really is the fact that you got great local culture. We're staying at an amazing place. There's a lot of space that they can come here with crews.
They can, and so we picked this spot. So I've got the partner that I made the movies with, Carter Bain, and another partner, Colin Davis, who owns the local resort, Chico
Right.
Hot Springs, which
Yeah.
we might be getting into shortly.
Yeah. Have a whiskey, maybe. You know.
There you go.
But Colin came to us and said, "Why didn't you put it here?" And Carter was all for it because we got lodging. So in this little town of Immigrant, there's 300 rooms in 2 different hotels,
God,
and
I see.
pubs and catering.
Yeah, see.
And then Livingston is just big enough as a city
Yes, it is.
to be able to have a full crew.
Yeah.
And it's funny you mentioned the Murray Hotel. Is the very first place I went into in Livingston, and you go in there and you see that Anthony Bourdain was here. Sam Peckinpah had a room upstairs.
Yeah.
It's pretty special.
It really is. It really is.
And the people are just so absolutely wonderful, helpful. Sarah, we've had such a good time
Great.
with her
Yeah,
bringing
yeah,
us
yeah.
around. So you have a great town, a Wild West town, and a great town in general. So if they want to get a hold of you, what's the website?
So Yellowstone Film Ranch on Instagram, you can go on there and see all the photos and the different productions that are coming through, and YellowstoneFilmRanch.com as well.
Good.
Great.
And what we love most is you used to have to go to Canada to get this town in this weather.
Yes.
Yeah,
And now
yeah.
we can make these films in America.
It's fantastic.
And tell Montanan stories in Montana.
Yeah, which I love. And what's great as well is, I mean, obviously it was a big risk to
Yes.
do this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Westerns weren't that popular, and you couldn't get them made, and all of a sudden,
Boom.
there's loads of Westerns, and you're
amazing.
booked up, are you not?
Yeah, we're booked till
Yeah.
April.
That's
I had no
fantastic.
idea, like 6 Westerns in a row, and it's great because there's such an important genre.
Oh, I love it.
Is there anything for the future that we should look forward to with what you're doing?
Yeah, so we just shot the first Western filmed here. It's called Murder at Immigrant Gulch. It's going to be called Murder in Yellowstone City, because Immigrant was called Yellowstone City in the 1860s.
Okay.
And so it makes sense, and this is Yellowstone Film Ranch. So that'll come out in the summer, and it was the very first film shot here. So it's pretty special to us.
Congratulations, it's
Thanks.
great. Love it.
Thank you.
He said a really cool word, summer. Let's get out of here and go find some of that.
Hot spring.
Come on, follow me.